I don't know how tired I was till just now. Wow. That's unreal. .606 at Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you. Jake Barty producing. We're off and running on Mornings with Brian Haldane to start off your Monday morning. And ooh. Man, I'm looking at the rundown. A lot of guests today. Guest heavy today. Talking a lot of crime today. But we're going to cover a lot of ground. Actually, a ton of ground. Richard Condon's going to be in half an hour from right now. Little thing we do on Mondays called Condon's Countdown. Best way to get your week started. 6:35 every Monday. Richard Condon moseys on down the hallway. 6:50, Jillian Snider from R Street's going to hop on board. Love leaning on R Street. They are a Washington, D.C. policy think tank, but they do everything from a free market perspective. They are not from the right or the left. We'll talk with Jillian Snider at 6:50. FBI is about to be out with new numbers. It says everywhere has more murder right now. It just doesn't matter where you turn. Everywhere equals more murder. In the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to talk ovarian cancer with Our Lady of the Lake at 7:15. Stephen Wagaspack from LABI is going to hop on board at 7:35. Then the 8 o'clock hour, I told you we were talking a little more about crime. Chris Nakamoto from WBRZ's investigative unit is going to hop on board, hop on the hotline, at 8:15. They came out with a special talking about the root causes of juvenile violence in Baton Rouge. It's more than on an uptick. An uptick would be an understatement. But it's also very, very alarming. For two main reasons. Number one, the overall crime rate. And number two, fighting this particular type of crime gets very, very tricky. So we'll talk with Chris Nakamoto about their special at 8:15. 8:40, looking forward to this. Author Ed Moser has a brand new book out about the secrets of the U.S. Capitol. The secrets throughout history of the U.S. Capitol. Love diving in when we talk a little history in the morning. All right. That's the rundown, as it were. Of course, we'll have top stories and trending. Of course, we will have the outside in. Of course, we're going to get you up to speed on what's going on in the tropics. There's a major hurricane going on right now. It's not going to bother us, though. But we'll check in on that later. We'll have the latest COVID numbers for you as well. But I got to start off by looking back over last weekend. LSU football, and we'll have some audio in our next segment. LSU football was in control. LSU football looked good. LSU football did battle for some time and then took their eye off the prize somewhere in the fourth quarter to end up with a 3-point win on the road to start off Southeastern Conference play. Now, I don't look unfavorably on any Southeastern Conference win. An SEC win is an SEC win. But, oh my word, the amount of people whose timelines filled up on Facebook with, that's not going to get it done. Congrats, that's the only SEC win this team's going to get all year. I mean, you look for a chance to be negative and find it, right? LSU was in control of that game for most of the game. Mississippi State put up a lot of yards in between the 20s, but when it all came down to it, LSU was able to tighten up before allowing any points to get up on the board. Not any. It's 28-10 at one point. 28-25 doesn't look impressive. 28-10 does. So how do you walk away from yesterday with any semblance of positivity? Easy. Every game within the season, you need to build from last game to this game. And if you're the LSU Tigers, you did exactly that. You went from, well, what was just absolutely atrocious in Los Angeles to looking not good, but pulling out a win against Miss McNeese simply because you're LSU and they're McNeese. Looking a lot better against Central Michigan, but still, FCS school, not a part of it. So now Mississippi State, LSU rolls into Mississippi State. Everybody complains, as we always do, we don't do 11 a.m. kickoffs. Okay, well, it happens from time to time, so let's go. 11 a.m. kickoff on the road, a place that's traditionally very loud. I'll take any win out of there at all. But what you did was, if you're LSU, you capitalized on some things that you had still been working on, had not yet had a chance to make progress with. That being said, there's still a number of things that are off about this team. They're getting better, but they're not there yet. We'll talk about a lot of them next. Going to get you to break here in just a minute. First, I got to tell you about the folks over at Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. BRPTLake.com is the website. Look, everybody thinks physical therapy when you're rehabbing from a major injury or a major accident or something. What about that day-to-day pain? What about that day-to-day nagging, just annoyance of pain? Whether it be in your knee, your lower back, your upper back, whether it be in your shoulders, wherever. If you've got that nagging, annoying, everyday pain, maybe it's time to start thinking about physical therapy to address it. Maybe you could check out one of Baton Rouge Physical Therapy's 6 locations in the greater Baton Rouge area by visiting brptlake.com. Or maybe you want to call them for a free screening. 917-9185. 917-9185 for Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. Oh, I need to add your email address to my highlight list. I email out the highlights every game. Shit. Yeah. You're not going to have them. I didn't email them to you. You're not on my list yet. Aww. .615, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Moser with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Sports time. We're going to dive back into this LSU game a little bit. Saints also a big winner yesterday. Of course, every win in the NFL is a big win. Saints moving to 2-1. Would like to see something different when Taysom Hill enters the ballgame. I was going to say, that is getting predictable. That has gotten predictable. Would be a lot more apt. Also, before we head back to the LSU game, the really important stuff. Utter dominance by Our Lady of Mercy's fourth grade girls basketball team over the weekend. Just ridiculous performance across the board. Taking home the inaugural Mercy Invitational Trophy. Boom. Did that.
It sounds like y'all showed no mercy.
But
Good morning.
Ran the table in the fourth grade bracket. Girls played in the fifth. My fourth graders played in the fifth grade as well. It's a good time. Good time.
Didn't stand a chance.
No, we didn't stand a chance in fifth grade, but fourth grade.
We got something though.
It's good stuff.
Good stuff.
Back to LSU. Defense executed their game plan well on Saturday. And with the exception of 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns, that is. Tigers gave up an SEC record 623 passing yards last year to the Bulldogs. There was a lot on the line this year in order to right the ship from last year or correct a wrong that just was lingering and still stung. Coach Ed Ogeron says they wanted to make sure that they kept everything in front of them, only rushing 3 players on passing downs especially.
A little different for us because, when you lead the nation in sacks, it's hard to go a 3-man rush, but we had to have a hard to do it. And but we gave up something. We told them as long as they don't beat the ball deep, we wanted to build a fence and make them throw the ball in front of us. And for the most part, it worked.
It did. It did, and it wasn't always the prettiest thing out there, but it worked. You don't get style points in the Southeastern Conference. Which interestingly enough, we'll get to that in a second. LSU allowed 371 passing yards on Saturday. Average gain per play was just 5.5 yards. Linebacker Damone Clark, he had 15 tackles on the day.
And they told us, just keep the ball in front of you. That's the biggest thing. No explosive plays. Don't bite on the cheese. Keep the ball in front of you. And it worked well. I know I keep saying the same thing, but we got to just finish. That's the biggest thing. Just finish to the end.
Giving up 371 passing yards might sound like a big number, but that's literally all Mississippi State does. Giving up 371 passing yards, by comparison, Max Johnson had 280 passing yards. So Mississippi State threw for 90 more yards than LSU did. But Max Johnson, what did he have? He was 17 of 27. Will Rogers, 47 of 62. Huge difference there. Hey, Jake, you want to play a game?
Let's go.
Okay. We'll do a little pop quiz.
Oh, boy.
I want you to tell me which coach has a better record over the last 6 games. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Dabo Swinney or Ed Ogeron?
My gut wants to say Dabo Swinney, but I'm gonna go loyal here. Coach O.
That is correct. Who has a better record over the last 6 games? Brian Kelly or Ed Ogeron?
I think it's Ed Ogeron.
It is Ed Ogeron. You see a pattern developing here? Who has a better record over the last 6 games? Lane Kiffin or Ed Ogeron?
I sense a pattern here, and I think I should stick with that. I think it's is it Coach O?
It is Coach O. One more for you.
Okay.
Dan Mullen. The great Dan Mullen or Ed Ogeron?
I think it's Ed Ogeron.
Dan Mullen 3-3, Dabo Swinney 3-3, Brian Kelly 4-2, Ed Ogeron. Oh, I'm sorry, Lane Kiffin and Ed Ogeron. I stand corrected. Lane Kiffin and Ed Ogeron are both 5-1 over their last 6 games.
We'll take that. I'll take that. I don't get why some people are negative.
So it's an unusual set to pick 6 games, but it carries over 2 from last year. Here comes the Fox Business Report. I think the biggest takeaway there is what the hell happened to Dabo Sweeney?
He started sprinting on the field, and then everything changed. Did you see that video on social media?
Mm-mm.
He's like full sprinting onto the field. It's very entertaining to watch. He's like trying to go for a new 40 time.
Nice. Biggest. Hey, good morning, Christy. So Abby was in pre-K for this. Oh. Why would they say that? That's a terrible thing to say in a commercial. What would you do in the event of a food shortage? Listening to recent headlines, it seems likely. Likely? Possible, maybe, but that's likely. Right. Right, like the strong money is on shortage. When, right. Well, like the, well, actually, that makes a good point. That actually makes it more likely. Everybody going to the grocery store and emptying the shelves of everything. Right. Oh, I know. Six 24, Talk 107.3 FM. All right, 624. Mike's all jacked up. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Richard Condon's going to be by in about 12 minutes from right now. We start your Monday off 6:35 with Condon's Countdown. Fair warning, I have no idea where he's going. when we first started setting this up, it was kind of agreed upon that it had to be completely organic. I could not know where he was going. And I said, okay. Also this hour, we're going to talk with Jillian Snider from R Street about the FBI coming out with new numbers, and murder's up everywhere. Murder is up everywhere. We've been looking at a homicide rate that is going to set a record, or should set a record this year in Baton Rouge, after setting a record last year in Baton Rouge. But come to find out, it's not just here. It's not like we're doing something that everybody else isn't. We will hear from Jillian Snider at 6:52 about exactly that. A couple other sports notes real quick before we move on, and we're going to talk booster shots, and LR, our news at the bottom of the hour will have more on the booster shots as well. But Saints are now 2-1, and I'm hard-pressed to be upset about that. 2-1 is 2-1. It's a winning record. If you could be on pace to be in the W column twice as often as the L column, you're more than likely going to make the playoffs. But looking at the numbers from yesterday's ball game, Jameis Winston threw for 128 yards yesterday. That's it. At some point, Jameis Winston's going to have to put up a good ball game. Like, he's 13-21. That's not terrible. Just under 2/3 of his passes completed. But, yeah, I'm looking at that right. 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, where's the 300-yard game? We're 3 games in. And the cannon of an arm that we've been expecting to see. Saints are doing it on the defensive side of the football, which isn't a bad thing. Oh, hey, one more quick sports note. If you play fantasy football, got to give a shout-out to my guy Mario Jerez over on the early line on our sister station, 104.5 ESPN. I was in need of a wide receiver 2 for the weekend, and Mario had mentioned give Mike Williams with the Chargers a look. Mike Williams just blew it up this weekend, and I'm up money on the DraftKings app because of it. Boom, thank you, Mario.
Mike Williams is a steal, too.
Well, yeah. We do the daily one on DraftKings.
Right.
So you're picking I'm picking a new roster every week, and he happened to be available within the budget for the average player, like where I'm averaging out on the rest of the roster, and just blew it up. So, I mean, Mike Williams had more points than Alvin Kamara. Actually, almost double Alvin Kamara's output. Anyway. So, let's talk booster shots for just a minute. Booster shots. This was inevitable. We knew we would be walking down this path. We heard for a couple of weeks, if not a little over a month, booster shots, there's not a whole lot of upside, but there's no downside. Booster shots, the conversation really should be about getting more people vaccinated before getting people boosters. Booster shots, don't really know if it helps, don't really know if it hurts. Doesn't look like it hurts. Okay, well then you know they're going to run with it. And now booster shots are available for some who received 2 doses of the Pfizer COVID vaccine at least 6 months ago. The Louisiana Department of Health says those who are 65 and older, along with those who are 18 and older with an underlying health condition, or those who live and work in a high-risk setting are eligible. Booster shots are now recommended for those that fit into those categories. State Health Officer Dr. Joseph Cantor says while boosters are significant, it will not end the pandemic.
Boosters are going to be important. More important is going to be continuing the work to get everyone vaccinated who should be vaccinated.
Yeah, the hardest part about this, though, is everything I was told before getting my vaccine has changed since getting my vaccine. And look, some people say, oh, the government lied to us. No, information changes from day to day. When you're in the middle of a learning process, that's just how things happen sometimes. And it sucks, but it's going to be a harder sell to get people to line up for booster shots. And it's like, well, it's just those with the high risk right now. Right now, yeah. But let's go back to the beginning of the vaccinations to begin with. It was just the high risk to begin with there. I make no bones about it. Before the end of this year, more and more people are going to be eligible or recommended for booster shots. I don't know why I air quoted recommended. It's not like a Dr. Evil thing. So the new booster shot guidance for those who receive their Pfizer vaccine is effective immediately. In an effort to remove any barriers, Dr. Cantor says you only need to self-attest for the booster shot, and there's no real need for a prescription here either.
You still have good protection. You still have significantly more than 50% protection. You still have really, really good protection, but it does wean a little bit from where it was before.
See, it does wean a little bit. I don't know. I was very, very eager to get vaccinated. I'm completely indifferent about the booster. At this point, I'm like, yeah, whatever. This is probably going to happen. I mean, if I'm more protected, then I guess. But as it stands right now, I got the vaccine so I could be protected. Let's check CBS News. We'll talk to Condor next. Morning, T-Bomb. Morning, Renee. Morning, Tiffany. Morning, Clint. Yeah, they are. Yeah. Why is this not on? 3 times I looked up, it saw Saints highlights, and then finally it's like Falcons highlights, and I'm like, oh, wait, I'm not on a local channel. And I want to know who's coming in here and putting it on ESPN. I didn't get to see the game live. I was coaching. And then, yeah, I caught up with it. I watched a lot of it on Fast Forward and then gave up and just. Gotcha. I think my bigger thing is not opening up downfield. That's what everybody talked about going into the season was now that Drew Brees is gone with his deteriorating arm strength, you can open it up and throw the ball downfield. So we got zero, look at that so far. I don't know. Maybe he's sitting on it till later in the year. I don't know. But 128 yards is it's not, I don't know. It's not encouraging. What is encouraging is with Jameis throwing for fewer than 200 yards a game through 3 games, the Saints are 2-1.
I'll take that. I mean,
Yeah, go back to the days where the defense was just beastly.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you work on the offense patching up. Meanwhile, let's see what happens once Mike Thomas comes back.
Yeah. I don't know. I need more time to think about if I think Jameis is actually like the quarterback I would want for the future. But regardless, we're 2-1 right now, and so I can't ask for more. Because I'm not even that, upset about the loss to the Panthers. I mean, obviously, we want to win in a divisional matchup, but we were missing a lot of our team, and almost like all of our coaches, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I don't expect regardless of how talented your team is, I don't expect you to win that. Because I've seen what happens when you don't have your head coach coaching on the sidelines. When you don't have that, teams play like a shell of themselves. I've seen that before in soccer.
Good morning, Rich.
Morning.
What's happening, Joe?
Not much.
Waiting on you, brother. Waiting on you. Get it cranking. What do we got this morning? What are we talking about? Okay. That'll be after Rich.
Hey, you know what?
Well,
I want to know if the local folks are going to hold the press conference today and congratulate the BRPD for showing restraint and not shooting the guy and killing him. You think that press conference is going to happen? Nope.
the one on
Domestic violence guy.
yeah.
He fired shots. They didn't kill him. Wow. That won't make the news. CNN won't be talking about that one.
This should
But
be.
you know what? Hey, most people disagree now with his name, image, and license. That guy in your section that boos all the time, and you go, you can't boo college kids. I'm kind of looking at him a little bit differently now.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
No.
You want to have your cake and eat it too?
That's exactly right.
637 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. All right, time to shift Monday into a higher gear. Richard Condon is in. Rich, what's happening, brother?
I just checked the AP wire. Rosas has not been cut yet by the Saints. Still hadn't been cut. I figured that would happen sometime later this morning, babe.
Okay.
You know what's good about this morning?
What?
Not many opportunities, no matter what's going on in your life, can we get up and know that Southern, LSU, and the Saints all won.
It's beautiful.
And for me personally, the team I hate the most, despise, the Chicago Bears, got a total of 47 yards of offense. Love that. If you went to Soldier Field
in 06,
you know what you went through and how we got verbally and physically abused in that stadium.
Chicago will finish what Katrina started, I believe, was the sign that was, yeah.
They were just pelting us with snowballs. Leaving Soldier Field was brutal. Literally, we had to walk out back to back. That's how bad it was, to get a couple of blocks away from that field before you felt somewhat safe.
Unreal.
Now, B, here's what I'm going to say.
And there's no call for that.
You know, this whole name, image, and license stuff. You know, everybody, if you've been going to Tiger Stadium for years, there's always that one guy who brings his bourbon and his binoculars who's booing college kids. And a lot of people out there say, well, college kids shouldn't be booed. They're there to get an education. They're student athletes. But you know what? When you got a guy on the team driving a brand-new F-250 who isn't playing, when you got another guy on the team, and it's always, what's next? He's got more physical conditions, God bless it, than Helen Keller did. He's driving a GT, a $72,000 automobile. He can't even be there for you each and every game.
Mm-hmm.
You know? You got the quarterback at Alabama, $1 million.
Right.
You got Bo Nix, who T.J. Finley's going to start in his place Saturday night against the Tigers.
I'm still not sure about that.
He's coming back home. Here's Bo Nix, Milo's T. He's got this deal. So, look, if you're going to say you shouldn't boo student athletes, well, guess what? Now you're getting paid, right?
Yeah.
Now you're getting paid. Well, when you start getting paid, then people feel like they have more of a right to boo student athletes. And I know all the Joe Biden supporters and all the progressive liberals, they still going to, eat their little veggie sandwich and drink their little sweet tea, and they're going to say you shouldn't. It's past that now, man. It really is.
It's a good question because the water is so murky that I don't know that you can call them. I mean, they have signed professional contracts. They are now professional.
Check this out. This quarterback at the University of Miami, You ready for this, Big? Kid's name is De'Ara King.
Yeah.
Signed deals with College Hunks, Hauling Junk, and moving Murphy Auto Group. He received $10,000 from each as a signing bonus, and his monthly compensation is over $20,000. So when he throws a couple of interceptions against Clemson or against North Carolina, whatever
His
ACC
monthly
game it
compensation is more than 20 grand.
over 20,000. Yep.
Wow.
So just think about that. It may be unfair to the average kid who doesn't get a name, image, and license deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you got an LSU gymnast with a name, image, and license deal. And
Right.
I'm not saying that's – God bless those young people. But when you start dishing out money, you no longer can just consider them amateur student athletes.
It's a good point. Yeah, I don't know that I'm ever going to boo college kids either way, but I don't think I'm going to hate on the person who does because now, yeah, you got money behind it. You've signed contracts. You are being paid for your name, image, and likeness. You are being paid for the athlete that you are.
Now, let me ask you this, Babe. Do you know yet? Have you gotten wind from the mayor's office or anything if there's going to be a press conference today and complimenting the BRPD for not filling Cedric Dabney's body up like a piece of Swiss cheese?
Oh, this is the one that was. Wait, I have the press.
Yeah, domestic
press
violence. He
release on this
killed
one.
his
Yeah,
wife. Then he started shooting at police officers. I wonder, is Mayor Broom going to hold a press conference today? Is CNN going to come here with their satellite truck today and do such a great job and report about how the Baton Rouge police officer showed restraint? It wasn't about skin color. No, you won't hear that today, brother. They're not going to do it. But let that guy come out and look like he's got a gun in his hand, and maybe it turns out to be just a plastic water gun, and let him unload on that dude, and here we go again. You're not going to hear nothing today. Nothing.
This was the shooting on Elgin Street, correct?
Right.
Yeah. This was Baton Rouge Police homicide detectives are investigating the shooting death of Shalama Dabney, 51 years old. It occurred, what was this, Friday night?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dabney was shot and killed by her husband, Cedric, during a domestic dispute. Dabney also fired shots at responding officers.
Are we gonna set up a wooden stand like the speech class uses in high school and set it up I-110 and acknowledge the fact that the BRPD could have took this guy's life, but guess what? They didn't. You know what that's it? You know what that's going to sound like, B?
What? You'd like to see BRPD hold a press conference for doing their job the right way?
I'd like to see the mayor do it because I'm still waiting for her to show some damn transparency.
Yeah.
When that 13-year-old swinging sticks at everybody had to be restrained by an officer, and Mayor Broom gets a little video that some little hard-working neighbor with the iPhone shot sent to the mayor's office, and boy, the next day, well, I will investigate it. I will show transparency. Zero, baby, like Zorro.
Wait, haven't those officers been cleared?
She never came out. She was the first one to hold a news conference and say, I'm going to investigate, and I'm going to report back. I'm going to show She didn't do nothing. It just went away. You know why it went away? Because the officer didn't do anything wrong.
The officer didn't do anything
wrong. You're
wrong.
going to do it or you're not going to do it. But you can't do it only when it benefits your own damn agenda. And that's what she does.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm always fair,
That's
babe.
fair.
I'm not saying people
That's
like
fair.
it, but I'm always fair.
No, it is. It is.
Hey, look,
I don't know if you. I don't know.
think I caught this out of the corner of my eye yesterday. Is somebody on the Saints team wearing number 9? I thought I saw somebody wearing number 9. I didn't have a chance. I meant to pull the roster up. If somebody's wearing number 9, that's a damn embarrassment. And I will say this.
Wait.
Drew Brees is a pro. I've never seen a former athlete
I want him back.
make a debut as far as with NBC. That guy's smooth.
That's right. I didn't even see him yet.
Oh, he's smooth, man. He's good. I think he's got hair plugs, though. But he looks good.
No.
Yes.
No.
I think he's got hair plugs. No, he's snapping it on before the cameras come on. I'm telling
Come
you.
on. He's
No,
better
I'm
than
not
that.
saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just telling you
No, I'm
he's
just
got
saying.
a full head of hair. Drew's got a full head of hair. And let me tell you something. That sweaty helmet can only press down your hair and separate the individual strands so much. I think Drew had to do it, TV. His wife Brittany said, Drew, we got to fill in those gaps.
I mean,
Like Michael Strahan's teeth. We got to close them babies together. We got to fill it in.
have you seen Good Morning America? They haven't. So
Is somebody wearing number 9?
I'm pulling it up right now.
I could be wrong here. Could be totally wrong. I thought I saw somebody wearing number 9, babe. It could have been an 8. I don't know. Nobody. Jake's saying nobody. My bad.
That's all right.
See, that's why you need to check it before the mic's open right there.
Well, I didn't know you were going there.
Well, I know. I didn't know I was either.
A
A lot of stuff I say I didn't know where I was going. I just go.
Saints. That's the whole point. Saints are
That's just
2-1 right now. Are you comfortable with where the team's at?
Yeah, if you would have told me before the season, but I didn't think it would play out this way.
Right.
I thought Carolina would be one of the wins. Who thought they'd be 3-0 right now?
I know.
So I figured the Saints would lose to Green Bay, maybe beat the Patriots at Carolina. I never thought they'd beat Green Bay and then go to Foxborough and beat them and lose to Carolina. I never thought that. But I'm going to tell you something. Look at Carolina's schedule. We're going to see how real they are in the next 3 weeks. It gets tough.
So, well, that's the beauty part of the NFL is it all balances out. The league is built for parity. So, I'm looking forward to that. Also, if I'm not mistaken, Christian McCaffrey's already hurt.
Hey, B, you know what happened on this day? I know it's minuscule. It's not a great day in LSU football history. Back in this day, it was Game 2 of the 1958 season. It's the first time a Paul Bear Bryant team won against Charlie McClendon, and LSU beat Alabama on this day, and they went on to win the national title. It was on this day they beat Alabama back in 1958.
Really?
And Paul Bear Bryant, look, after the game, he said, I don't think I've ever seen a team with more overall speed. That's what the Bear said about Charlie Mack's. Paul Dietzel's 1958 LSU team.
Interesting.
And you know what happened yesterday, B?
What?
That game in '87, that 13-13 tie.
Oh!
Against Ohio State. You remember the late Eric Andolsek. You remember him and Chris Spielman? They had the little knockdown drag out at the coin toss.
I don't.
Yeah. Well, Earl Bruce was coaching Ohio State at the time. Mm-hmm. He refused to bring his team out on the field until LSU came out. So once LSU came out, that was Mike Archer's first year.
Okay.
They both came out together. And Chris Spielman and Eric Andolsak became great friends after that.
Okay.
And B, remember, and 2 days from now, I'm going to give you a good one.
All right.
I'll just give it to you. You run with it.
Will do. He's Richard Condon. You'll find him down the hall in Eagle
Are you all
Lake.
right today, man?
I'm golden, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just worried about. I always worry about you.
Long weekend.
That's why I text you at 1 o'clock in the morning. You let me know how you're doing.
Long weekend, Rich. We were coaching basketball all weekend long, so love you too, Rich.
Palms up.
Quick break. We'll check your money now. Coming back next on Talk 107.3.
Is that all right?
That was awesome.
No, because I never know. I never know what you want to do. When it's nothing big in sports, I mean, LSU. Coach, you know that post-game show next week's going to start at like 12:30? How crazy is that?
By the way, you're killing it.
No, I'm not.
No, you are. You are.
I don't think I am.
Well, the parts that I'm listening to, you are.
You're being nice, babe. Because you see, the thing about it is and I'm going to get out of here. I know y'all busy. See, I get reaction from you. I don't get a whole lot of reaction. I know, like, what Jake does. Like, Jake doesn't know me from Adam, right? Besides coming in here. He doesn't know the history. Well, those two guys up there either. And Heinegger's laughing, and the other two guys, I play off a reaction. If somebody doesn't react, I take it back a little bit. You know me? And Paul, God bless him, but O'Neal?
Oh, yeah.
It means nothing. It doesn't matter what. I'll pay a comedian $1 million if you can make him laugh for 20 seconds.
Guys, as stoic as the day is long. Come see this.
But who's the other guy? Some dick.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. He's one of the new part-timers. I don't know.
Jake, you do a great job, dude.
All right, here we go. Where's the... Nope, that's not it. Nope, that's not it. Nope, that's not it. Shit, come on. Here we go. Look at my fourth grader.
That's your daughter?
That's my daughter. On the way to a 19-2 win.
Look at him high rise too. I like that.
The whole team bought matching socks.
That's great, baby.
So, because in fourth grade, that's what's important.
You gotta be excited, huh? Your daughter like that?
We are right now 6-0, and the closest game we've played, we won by 9. Which, yes,
hey, that's good, man.
Very exciting.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Everyone.
I don't agree with. Oh wait, are we gonna have? Shoot, we're gonna have a gap here, aren't we?
Yeah.
Because I was supposed to do which library? Mathern's. All right. Nope. It's not enough for Mathern's. Come back to me. Talk 107.3 FM's giving you a chance to enjoy a true Louisiana staycation on us at either the Renaissance or Watermark Hotels. Simply take our staycation survey at talk1073.com. You will be instantly registered for one of 2 staycations each month. At the Watermark, which you win, a one-night stay with a valet, or with valet parking, I should say, and dinner for two at the Gregory. Over at the Renaissance, the prize is a one-night stay with breakfast for two and dinner for two at Tallulah. We draw one winner on this show, one winner on the Jada Cody show. The staycation still going on at talk1073.com. Yeah, as soon as they go to their spot. This will run till 51. When 51 hits and they go from the report to their commercial, call her then.
Is 917 a non-local number?
That is correct. I disagree with Rich. I don't think Finley's starting this week. Bless you. I don't think that kid can put together a week's worth of practices to warrant it. They can be mad at Bo Nix all they want. That's who's third on the depth chart.
What's the last number on this?
0.
Hi, Jillian Snider? Yes, this is Talk 1073. How are you doing today? Doing wonderful. Are you ready for an interview? Yes, give me one minute. Let me get a chance to write that down. What is that number? Thank you. We'll get you momentarily. I have to get her on a different number.
Okay.
I'll get you in first, and then I'll call her.
Yep. 652 Talk 1073 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. CBS World News Roundup coming your way shortly. Thanks again to Richard Condor for hopping on board as he does every single Monday. Going to shift gears here for a second. The headline from the New York Times, murder rose by almost 30% in 2020. It is rising by a slower rate in 2021. Now, here in Baton Rouge, we saw murders rise, homicides rise last year, right? We were seeing it at a ridiculous clip this year. August tapered off a good bit. September has been tapered off as well. But come to find out, we're not alone here. This is apparently, according to the New York Times and according to the FBI, a national trend. Well, to what do we attribute the rise in homicides or the rise in murder in 2020? And while it's still rising at a slower rate in 2021. Joining us now to talk about that is Jillian Snider, the Director of Criminal Justice and Civil Liberties with R Street. Jillian, good morning. Welcome to Talk 1073. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing all right this morning. So you're a former NYPD police officer. You are now the Director for Criminal Justice and Civil Liberties over at R Street. To what do we attribute the rise in murders by almost 30% in 2020?
There's no one answer to that question, and this is something I talk about with people all the time. As you know, the FBI is releasing their report, I think, later on today, and just looking at the numbers generally, we saw such a significant rise last year, when compared to years earlier, but something that we don't really talk about is the fact that it's not as high as it was back in, say, like 1992.
Right.
So even though it was such, like, a surge, I think it was last year they said between 25 and 30%, but we do see that trend is slowly declining this year. I would say it'd be variables such as the economy post or during and post-COVID. We're not even out of the woods yet on that. Then there's obviously like societal unrest. We also have I don't want to call it depolicing, but it is essentially depolicing, whereas we've seen movements in police departments to be less proactive. Of course, that can contribute to rises in violent crime. A lot of other people have said the increase in gun sales during the pandemic could also contribute to the rise in homicides and shootings. So there's a lot of different things, and all social science researchers are boggling their mind right now trying to figure out, but it's very hard to say there's one specific thing that contributes to the rise of violent crime.
Which of those, and you pick more than one here, which of those do you think is the more valuable or more, I don't want to say influential, but of the reasons that you just gave, which of those do you think rises to the top? Because, I mean, increasing gun sales, I can see that leading to more accidental deaths, but to create motive to go along with it?
Oh, no, I agree with you. I'm just saying this is what other people have suggested.
Yeah.
Most violent gun crimes are not committed with legally purchased firearms.
Right.
So I'm just saying that's something that has been suggested because people were running out in the masses to stock up on firearms. But me personally, I was a cop for a long time. I worked in New York City. I worked in Brooklyn. I worked in the Bronx. I know what proactive policing does. I know that although it won't stop all crime, it does have an effect on reducing crime in a specific area, especially when you have a crime-targeted approach. And as we saw, a lot of agencies over the past year, they dismantled some of their units that were the proactive policing units. So you don't have that group of officers going out there anymore looking specifically for your alpha targets, which are, based on your intel and surveillance and speaking to people. You kind of have an idea of who the bad guy is, who is the guy who's most likely to engage in violent crime. And we don't have officers out there doing that as much right now, for simple reasons such as limited funding, or people are running to retire. We've seen a huge uptick in people running to retire either right at their retirement date or leaving police departments early, just because the morale amongst police officers has obviously diminished in the last 18 months. But I would say of all of the variables that I suggested, I think one that we really need to consider is the police officers they're more reactive right now.
Right.
They're responding after crimes occurring instead of being out there and engaging in proactive solutions.
Okay, now you referenced the fact that the rates were higher in 91, 92, around that time. Are there any other historical perspectives that coincide with where we're at now versus where we were then that might lead to more depolicing and less proactive policing?
I don't really think so. Again, the crime trends ebb and flow naturally anyway. Mm-hmm. So we know that in the 80s, there was, the war on drugs, and, that was like a really big factor in why crime was up. And then what did we do? We proactively targeted drug offenses. Crime did go down, yes. Mass incarceration did go up, yes. Do we think that solved the overall violent crime problem? Probably not. Again, there's a lot of natural things that contribute to crime. So 2020 is a year like no other. Yeah. So that's why I don't want to start playing the guessing game on what's happened, what can we do going forward, because none of us have ever seen anything like last year, besides the increase in crime, also COVID and economic disaster and social unrest. So really, last year is a year to be examined on its own.
It really is, to combine that many things all at once, because if you dial back to the early 90s, if you're trying to pull one historical comparison, dial back to the early 90s, you had Rodney King. Yeah. And then you fast forward to a lot of the social justice movement of last summer started with Ferguson, Missouri. So there's a similarity there, but to compound that with stay-at-home orders and people losing their jobs, and it really does put 2020 in a different ballgame.
Well, I actually think that's a really good comparison, Rodney King. We didn't see the kind of unrest after the Rodney King incident as we did obviously last year. A lot of that could be because we didn't have the social media and everyone having camera phones. So if something happens today, it's out there in a minute and everyone knows about it. Whereas back then, yes, that was national news and there was a lot of uproar and there were a lot of angry people over that incident because it was horrible. But we didn't see the kind of social unrest, and it didn't last as long as it is right now.
Yeah. The fact that it is lasting is troubling as well. We are straight up out of time, though. I thank you so much for hopping on board. She is Jillian Snider with R Street, the Director of Criminal Justice and Civil Liberties. Thank you so much, Jillian.
Have a great day.
You too. 7 o'clock, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Let's get you to the CBS World News Roundup. Yeah, no social media in 91. It's a damn good point. Oh, so I got a whole bunch of stuff about Medical Monday, but none of it says who my guest is. So when the guest calls in, please get their name. Thank you. We are. She's good. We'll call on her again for sure. Yeah.
Want to hear something interesting?
What?
Yesterday I met Congressman Graves.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Told him, hey, actually, I'm calling into our show.
Yep.
Very,
Where'd you meet him at?
It was the announcement party for the Washington, D.C. Mardi Gras Ball.
Oh. Where was that at?
It was at Baton Rouge Country Club.
Okay. What are you doing at Baton Rouge Country Club? Are you rich?
No, my girlfriend is the queen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Very
So-
bizarre situation. It's cool though. I'm not from around these parts, so this culture is new.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to take that in strides.
Last time they had Washington Mardi Gras, me and Jay went, so we're probably going again.
Nice. I was there not last year's, but well, no, 2020.
Yeah, they didn't have one in 2021.
I was at that one because of
We were there.
Tiger Band.
We were.
I performed for that one.
Oh, okay. You were there on a different night than I was. Tiger Band was not. You were there for the Friday night or the Saturday night. I was there for the Thursday.
I don't remember. All I know is we had about a 15-minute performance, and
Yeah.
that's about it.
So the plan is for us to go back again. I'm hoping. Yeah.
Should be fun.
Yep. What's going on here? Hat. Nice. YouTube, I'll be back there in a little while. I've been bouncing around with a couple of other things this morning. Hee hee. Beastly. That doesn't make any sense. Okay. Oh, I still haven't done Matherns. Let me do Matherns first. Okay. Ha. Hmm. .706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Hour 2 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you, Jake Barty producing. We got Medical Monday this hour. We got Stephen Waggis back from the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry this hour. We got a lot of ground to cover. We're going to get you to the top stories and trending here in just a minute. Do have to ask you, as we start off the week, got your grocery shopping knocked out over the weekend? If not, maybe you need to start off your weekend by hitting up some groceries. Well, you could do that with Matherns. You could do that at either location of Matherns, downtown on 3rd Street or Nicholson at Skip Bourbon Drive, right across the street from Tiger Stadium. So much convenience here. Yeah, I know, it's downtown, right? You're not thinking of like lugging groceries all over downtown. There's a parking lot off of 4th Street for Matherns. Or, and hear me out, download the app. Have them bring the groceries out to you. Whether you're leaving work and want to pop in downtown or Nicholson's part of your commute, they're in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. Either way, get your grocery shopping done before you even leave work. Oh, and by the way, Matherns has started up a rewards program. I actually signed up over the weekend. Matherns started up a rewards program, so you could be earning points for benefits, discounts, prizes, and the like, just by putting your phone number when you go over there. But start with the app. Download the app today. Get your grocery shopping done before you even leave work at either location of Matherns. All right, time for top stories and trending. Let's go. Police have identified the man who was killed Saturday in a residential area just south of North Baton Rouge's Clark Park Golf Course. Baton Rouge Police Homicide Detectives said 41-year-old Cedric Clay was shot multiple times while sitting in his vehicle outside of a home within the 1200 block of Leonidas Drive. One witness told reporters with the Advocate she heard approximately 10 shots from a few blocks away. Police say the fatal shots were fired around 1 p.m. Investigators are working to ascertain who fired those shots and what their motive was. Well, FEMA's setting up shop at the Lowe's off of Millerville. Representatives are on hand, helping provide assistance to those still searching for answers. FEMA mitigation specialists set up at the Lowe's on Millerville on Sunday, looking to help anyone still in need of federal aid. Catherine Keithon has been with FEMA since 2009, says it's been a passion helping others, especially those who have fallen on hard times. She says, when you come across that situation, listening's the most important part of this gig, you know? I would offer that cutting checks is the most important part, but that's neither here nor there. You have to listen and look between the lines. If someone needs more help, someone needs some heart help, I'm going to look her up. got a name and number. I'm going to find crisis counseling for that person. FEMA specialists are going to be on hand at the Millerville Lowe's until September 29th. So, what, like 2 more days? Oxner Health is scheduling to begin administering the Pfizer booster shots to individuals starting today at their regularly scheduled vaccination events across Louisiana. In accordance with the guidance from the FDA and the CDC, Louisiana Department of Health approved the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine booster shots for those at an increased risk. Oxner says they are prepared to begin administering the booster shots to those who meet those CDC criteria. Got to make an appointment via My Oxner or by calling 844-888-2722. You don't have to make an appointment, though. They are accepting walk-ins as well. The body of a toddler from Baton Rouge was found in a remote area of Mississippi after a days-long search for the missing child. Nevaeh Allen was found in the Logtown area of Hancock County yesterday. FBI, in conjunction with the Hancock County Sheriff's Office, shut down Logtown Road off Highway 604 in Pearlington yesterday to search for her body. She was reportedly last seen in a Baton Rouge neighborhood when her stepfather put her down for a nap on Friday. The girl's body is being brought back to East Baton Rouge for an autopsy. The coroner's office said that examination is scheduled for tomorrow. Detectives arrested 30-year-old Philip Gardner, described by the family as the girl's stepfather, earlier Sunday afternoon. Gardner was booked for unlawful disposal of remains and obstruction of justice, suggesting that he had hidden the toddler's body. Police were fired upon by a man who's accused of killing his wife overnight. That's overnight Saturday night. Overnight Friday night into Saturday morning. 52-year-old Cedric Dabney was arrested after firing gunshots at officers who responded to the deadly domestic situation on Elgin Street. 51-year-old Shalama Dabney was killed. The woman was shot and killed by her husband around 11:30 p.m. Friday. Police said Dabney was arrested after firing at officers. Police did not reveal if the officers fired back, but it did not appear that any officers were injured. That's a look at your top stories. Here is a look at what's trending this morning. Saturday afternoon, volunteers from across Baton Rouge gathered to paint a special project. Together, they created a tribute mural in honor of the people and first responders who were killed or injured in the attacks on 9/11. The mural is now on display for all to see at Fire Station 11 on Highland Road. Oh, wait, I drove by this while it was happening. At Fire Station 11 on Highland Road. Quote, luckily for us, they chose our station, which has a lot of visibility to showcase this work. The fact that they chose us was a true blessing, said Shane Hernandez with the Baton Rouge Fire Department. He is one of several Baton Rouge firefighters who volunteered to paint. Hernandez says the mural also serves as a reminder as to why he chose to join that profession. That is top stories in trending. We are due up for a quick break. When we come back, let's talk ovarian cancer on Medical Monday next. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, get the name and title, please. I'll be back in 1 second, y'all. Medical Monday. Yes, it is time for Medical Monday. We're looking to connect with our doctor here real quick. Talking ovarian cancer today. We've got Dr. Constance Cole Blunt on the phone with us. Doc, good morning. How are you? Doc, you there? There you are.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome aboard. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well.
We're talking ovarian cancer today. It's always a little weighty when we talk cancer, but nonetheless, awareness is key because early detection is key, like it is with every other type of cancer out there. So when it comes to ovarian cancer, what should folks be on the lookout for?
Absolutely. So the symptoms for ovarian cancer can kind of mimic, other non-serious disorders. So things like increased abdominal size, so increased size of your belly, that can kind of feel and look like bloating, abdominal pain, the feeling of fullness or having difficulty completing meals or eating. And sometimes women can also have some unexplained weight loss. It's really important that if you have these mild symptoms or vague symptoms and they persist, that you seek medical attention so that you can be properly evaluated.
I mean, that is something that sounds so under the radar.
Absolutely.
It's not like, it's not like there's like consistent pain or just, I got full too fast, which most people would trade off for that on a normal day, but this would be something very, very different.
Yes.
Are there causes? Do we know what causes ovarian cancer?
Yeah, so cancer in general has complex play of genetics and risk factors. And so when we talk about the causes of cancer, it's like influences from all of those things together. And a large portion of cancer still are not fully explained as to why they develop. But things that you can look out for that might put you at an increased risk of ovarian cancer include a higher age. So more than half of the women who develop ovarian cancer are actually in their sixth decade of life, so women in their 60s. If you are overweight or obese, specifically with the BMI greater than 30, you have a higher risk. Anyone who's had children later in life, or if you've never had a full-term pregnancy, increases your risk. And then we have things like hormone replacement, so estrogens alone or estrogen with progesterone. And these medications are usually given to women who are postmenopausal to help with menopausal-type symptoms. And then the last thing, which I think people really don't pay enough attention to, is family history. Mm-hmm. So if you have history in your family of cancers like ovarian, breast, and colon, you might have a cancer syndrome or some sort of DNA or genetic change that puts you at an increased risk of cancer.
We've got Dr. Constance Cole Blunt with us. She's a hematologist and oncologist with Our Lady of the Lake. Doc, so the family history part is interesting to me because we hear that come up with every type of cancer under the sun, but it's also not like a reason to check out if you don't have a family history.
Yes, that is correct. Family history helps us identify patients who are at a higher risk, but for average risk individuals, you still need to perform routine cancer screening. So that does not take away your risk of developing cancer if you don't have a family history.
Now, those risk factors you were listing, obesity coming up as one of them. Pregnancy later is interesting as well. Everything else kind of sounds like, I don't know how to put this the right way, but age is a factor for everything, is it not? Yeah. Like there's if you're doing battle with age, you're doing battle with everything else out there. So that would kind of put you in the ball game, not just for ovarian cancer, but anything that would be out there.
Yes, that's true. The longer you live, unfortunately, you have a higher chance of getting a myriad of things.
Exactly. So what about prevention?
Prevention is key. And so, like we said earlier, if you have any of those, like I said, just vague, mild signs that are unusual for you, if they persist, see your doctor. Also, discuss your family history with your doctor. That's really key for us because family history helps us identify patients who might be at a higher risk of developing ovarian cancer. In those situations, we can pursue things like genetic counseling or genetic testing to see if we can identify a cause specifically as to why there's this cancer syndrome in the family. Also, there's certain diagnostic testing, for instance, like ultrasounds for certain high-risk women. However, if you are not high risk and just at average risk of ovarian cancer, we recommend against screening because that leads to false positive testing and can sometimes include harm from, invasive testing. So high-risk individuals with significant family history might be candidates for screening, but average-risk individuals just need to follow up with their primary and complete their regular cancer age-appropriate screenings. So things like mammograms and colonoscopies and pelvic exams when it's time.
Mammograms and colonoscopies and pelvic exams. What are the ovarian cancer screenings like? Because I'm a guy. I don't really know. So what is that like as far as the screenings are concerned? Are they difficult?
Yeah,
Or are they
so,
just a matter of just sucking it up and
actually,
doing it?
Yeah, actually not. So most of the time, if you are high risk and you are a candidate for ovarian cancer screening, you follow up with your gynecologist. It's a physical exam and sometimes an ultrasound. Now, things could get a little bit more invasive or serious if we find something on those initial exams. And in certain situations, there's certain lab tests that we get that might help us detect the presence of cancer in a patient's blood early before we have overt symptoms. But again, these screenings are for high-risk individuals or individuals who have a known cancer syndrome in their family.
We've got Dr. Constance Cole-Blunt with us. We're talking ovarian cancer. Doc, I've done a lot of work with breast cancer and Susan G. Komen in the past. I've not, admittedly, done much with ovarian cancer. So one of the things that's been remarkable with breast cancer has been survival rates are through the roof. Where are we at with survival rates for ovarian cancer?
Okay, so survival rates are linked with your stage. And so the earlier stage you are, that means you have cancer confined or a lower level of cancer theoretically. And so survival is going to be best in patients who have an early stage cancer. For example, stage 1, which is the earliest stage cancer for ovarian, the 5-year survival rate is about 89%. Now, if you bump that up to someone who has a stage 4 ovarian cancer with spread of the disease outside of the ovary into other critical areas, the 5-year survival rate is about 18%. So big difference there, which is why, getting patients in early with those symptoms to get them worked up appropriately is really important because we know survival matters. When we have early detection of cancer, we can get better outcomes for our patients.
What about treatments?
So treatments can sometimes include multiple things, but definitely for a lot of women with ovarian cancer, surgery or removal of the cancer is going to be a big portion of their treatment. And this is done by a special gynecologist who has had additional training in removing gynecologic cancers. And so we call those people surgical oncologists. So as a doctor who treats ovarian cancer, I work hand in hand with the surgeons with these patients. Now, there are some women who, after they've had removal of their cancer, will require chemotherapy, which are medicines that can kill cancer and stop cancer growth. And so it really depends on the stage of disease at the time of diagnosis, what treatments are required.
How far advanced are we now compared to, say, like a decade ago when it comes to treating ovarian cancer or diagnosing and treating ovarian cancer?
Yeah, so I think we've made a lot of advancements. Number one, knowledge and dissemination of that knowledge is really key. So shows like this are really important because we start to kind of reveal or remove the mystery of cancer from everyday people, so they can kind of know what to look for, or know that, my aunt had this. This is kind of something important that I need to tell my doctor. And so we have a large population of patients who are much more educated about cancer and about their health in general than we did a while ago. We're also getting more detailed in our evaluation of patients when it comes to like genetics and evaluating them for genetic syndromes. Clinical trials are key. Research is key. And so we do have a large network of doctors that work to provide clinical trials and get our patients the newest and most appropriate treatments at that time. And so I can just tell you, cancer has made strides. Every year, you can the number of new drugs that's available for patients grows exponentially. So definitely moving in the right direction.
I want to go back to family history for a minute, because I was actually sent a question via direct message during the segment. And that is, when you look at family history, are you just looking at a family history of ovarian cancer, or is there like crossover of other cancers that are looked at? Like, is your family prone to cancer in general?
Yes. So, for instance, there are certain cancer syndromes that if you have a history of breast, ovarian, or colon cancer in your family, things that are also of interest, a family history of prostate cancer or pancreatic cancer. So all cancer history is important, and documenting that history and who had what malignancies or cancers and the age of diagnosis, if you can get that information, are all very helpful to your physician when evaluating you for risk and cancer screenings.
And that being said, once again, just because it's not in the family history doesn't mean you're out of the ball game for it overall. Where can folks go if they want to learn more?
So if you want to learn more, a really great place to start, like I said, is having that discussion with your primary doctor about your family history and just seeing what your risk factors are. You can also visit the American Cancer Society. They have wonderful breakdown and information for patients about each type of cancer that's out there, and I think that's a really good resource for people.
She is Dr. Constance Cole Blunt. We do Medical Monday every single week. Ovarian cancer, obviously, it doesn't garner as many headlines as a certain number of other types of cancer, but nonetheless, every bit as risky and deadly.
Yes, it is, and I really appreciate your show highlighting ovarian cancer.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the time this morning.
Thank you.
728 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. I'm looking at the calendar right now. It's September 27th. In 4 days. Yeah, September 27th. In 4 days, it's going to be all about breast cancer awareness for an entire month. There's certain cancers garner everyone's attention, and all the NFL will wear pink cleats and it'll be a full month worth of awareness. And yet here we are talking ovarian cancer for what, 9 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 and a half. All right, we got CBS News coming your way in a little bit. After CBS News, we're going to check in with Stephen Wagasback, the president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Can't help but think that we're going to be talking a little bit about getting ready for the fall elections, as there are a couple of tax reform measures that made their way through the legislative session that are going to be on the ballot. They are not to the finish line yet. They still need voter approval, constitutional amendments as well. Looking forward to talking to Stephen Wagasback in just a little bit. Before that, though, I know it's only 7:30 in the morning, and the last thing you want to think about at 7:30 in the morning is a cheeseburger and a milkshake, but I'm going to ask you, can I interest you in a cheeseburger and a milkshake? If you do not yet have your lunch plans for today, consider Mooyah. Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. They've got 2 locations. They are on Segan Lane, just north of Industrialplex. They are on Bluebonnet at Highland Road. Both locations of Mooyah, you are going to get the same fantastic service. Both locations of Mooyah, you are going to get the same top-notch, freshly cut ingredients, freshly baked buns, certified Angus beef, real ice cream milkshakes, and it all starts with the moment you walk through the front door and you are actually greeted. You're actually greeted by the team at Mooyah, not just like somebody's just hollering at you from somewhere off in the distance. This is real customer service, just like real ice cream and the milkshakes. It's real customer service at both locations of Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. Look, no matter what your personal preference is when it comes to a burger, they've got a variety on the menu, more than a dozen burgers to choose from on the menu, but they've also got this option: build your own. Build the burger to your liking. Oh, and if you're cutting down on the carbs, maybe get rid of the bun and go with the iceberg lettuce. They've got a vegan option on the menu available as well, but I hesitate to even bring it up because they're all about the burgers, fries, and shakes at both locations of Mooyah. All right, we got to check news here in just a minute. Hey, one quick note. Oh, no, I got to save this one. We'll come back to that one. One quick note. The governor's mask mandate is set to expire on Wednesday. I'm guessing either sometime today or tomorrow we should hear an extension or an announcement about such as to whether or not we're going to go another month. If I'm guessing, I'm thinking we are. But, yeah, the current mask mandate expires on the 29th. All right. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, Stephen Wagasback from LABI joins us next right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Business and Industry. Yeah. All right, I'll be back in 2 seconds. 2 seconds. So, in the last segment of the show, I'm trying to decide if I want to do this or not. I feel less than professional about it. A press release from the mayor's office came out Friday afternoon, or Friday evening, and it made it sound like the chief of police was leaving.
So what's your question about it, though? Like,
What is it worth blasting the mayor's office for a stupid mistake on a Friday afternoon? Yeah, I'll skip it. snap. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Medical Monday has its own open because it has a built-in sponsor. Oh, yes. Sorry about That's yeah the. Gotcha. .737 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Big day on Capitol Hill today. Will $1 trillion advance as part of an infrastructure and transportation package? And what will the effects be back home in Louisiana if it does? Joining us now to talk about that is Stephen Wagasback. He heads up the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, and he joins us now. Stephen, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, Brian. Man, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm very well. Busy weekend, but all of it worthwhile.
Same here. We went and visited my oldest son who went off to college, had a little parents' weekend action, and so got to see that he's healthy, safe and sound, doing well. So that made us feel good. So glad to be back home, but was glad to see him after him being away for a couple months. So
very nice, very nice. I'm not ready for that, man. I've still got a couple more years. My oldest is a freshman in high school.
Get ready. It sneaks up on you.
Yeah, that's what I'm told. Bracing myself for it. Nonetheless, though, a lot going on to start off today. Transportation and infrastructure are going to be the topic of debate on Capitol Hill today. Let's do this in two parts. Likelihood that it happens and effects on Louisiana.
Whoosh. Okay, so I guess on likelihood, I guess we'll know Thursday is the new game plan. Speaker Pelosi, if you're looking at how to do air traffic control, this is not how you do it, because basically she's trying to land 3 major aircraft at the exact same time, all filled with nuclear weapons, and not have anything blow up on her. It's not going to go well, okay? Because her game plan this week is, by the end of the week, she wants to have a vote on the infrastructure bill, a vote on the massive $3.5 trillion, what I'll call boondoggle bill, and also a vote on raising the debt limit to ensure that we pay our bills. And so she's all 3 of those are coming to a head at the end of the week. Not exactly how you want to run a railroad, but what it shows is House of Representatives. It's really turned into tribal warfare. I mean, the Democrat Party on that side, she's got progressives on her left, moderates on her right, both saying that they're going to hold their votes until they get what they want. The conservatives and the Republicans have been kind of left out of the room. Democrats are drafting this bill kind of in a private room in a back hallway, and so they don't even know what's going on. So of course they're resistant. It is a challenging time in Congress, but if you clear all through that, what she has said that debate will start today on the transportation bill. There will be a vote by Thursday. At the same time, she plans to have a bill that they're drafting in private that would spend about $3.5 trillion that they'll try to bring to a vote also on Thursday, since they did a procedural motion yesterday. But no one even knows really what's in that thing or where it's going. I mean, it is a mess up there, and it's real dollars, it's real spending. It's a lot of inflationary pressures all caught in the balance while they sit in back rooms and try to cobble something together.
So I'm getting increasingly more and more worried that the $1 trillion infrastructure and transportation bill is not going to make it without the $3.5 trillion for the reconciliation bill. And, I mean, I think we're going to be hard-pressed to find enough politicians to say, I'm not paying another $3.5 trillion coming out of the back end of the pandemic in order to get this. Like, I don't think there's going to be enough that actually stand up and say no. Which
I think you're right.
Going to put us another $4.5 trillion in the hole.
I worry about the same thing. Now, when I look at and I listen to some of the folks like Senator Cassidy that worked across the aisle to put together that transportation bill, what it seems like an eons ago, but I guess about a month ago, they all said, hey, look, we want to work together, we want to compromise, but at the same time, we're not going to be used as a pawn. And so they all said at the time, and Senator Cassidy reiterated that numerous times, that if it ends up being tied to that $3.5 trillion, then they lose his vote and they lose some of his other colleagues who put that bipartisan effort together. So, Speaker Pelosi, she's caught in a crossfire, and it's an inter-party crossfire. Her progressives, as they call it now, on her left in her caucus, have said, look, unless you give us the $3.5 trillion boondoggle, we're not voting for the infrastructure bill. And her moderates are saying, look, unless you give us a clean up or down vote first on transportation, we're going to oppose anything you're doing on the 3.5. And so she's got that crossfire in her own party right now.
Right.
And if she can't maneuver it more skillfully this week than she has the last month, then I think what you're looking towards is every camp stays in their bunker. And at the end of the week, you could have just, death by 1,000 cuts and the whole thing falls to the wayside. We continue to hope that they can shelve that $3.5 trillion bill.
Right.
They can move forward on the infrastructure bill. We still think that's the most responsible way for them to invest in a critical, topic like infrastructure at the same time, not throwing all this spending on top of the spending we had last year. I mean, look, when I talk to businesses right now, Brian, a growing concern that is slowly becoming the number one concern is inflation.
Yes.
It's still workforce and hiring. That's still the biggest issue. But right behind it is inflation. Everyone is seeing it, feeling it. This isn't some theoretical exercise. This is right now showing up. And every business is forced to either cut costs or raise prices because of it. Mm-hmm. And if you throw another $3.5 trillion of unnecessary spending on top of what's already out there, I mean, inflation is going to go through the roof. And that is going to be terrible for already, constricted supply chains. It's going to be terrible for raising prices even more in a pandemic-damaged economy. I mean, it's the last thing you really need. And so I just hope that Pelosi can look her progressives in the eye and say, look, chill out. We're going to move this infrastructure bill, and if we wake up months down the road and still need some more spending, let's talk then. But I don't think she's going to do that.
And we haven't even addressed the debt ceiling yet. We haven't even addressed raising the debt ceiling yet. It triggered in my mind as soon as you mentioned inflation, because what's going to happen there. But if you want to move the debt ceiling up by $15 trillion, I think that was the number they were throwing out there, you're going to spend a third of that on the first day, between $3.5 trillion on one bill and 1.2 on another. You're going to spend a third of what you've increased the debt ceiling on in a day?
Well, the debt ceiling, there's two ways to view a debt ceiling. And if you're worried about spending, like I know a lot of folks in this state are, and I know in our organization are, you can raise the debt ceiling to make sure that we can pay our current bills, things we've done in the past. And I think that is the vehicle that everyone says, okay, we got to do that. But what instead they're trying to do is use that leverage of default and say, hey, let's throw on all this window, this green space for new spending. That's where that $15 trillion comes from. So then we can have the air cover to go in and jam through this $3.5 trillion bill. No one wants that bill. No one that I've met in Louisiana wants that bill. And I think we're not an uncommon state. I think we're a common state on that front. And so my worry is that the Democrat leadership up there is starting to act a little desperate. They feel like the midterms are coming and this is their last bite at the apple. And I think, unfortunately, too many of them are saying, look, we're going to lose our leadership positions in a year and a half anyway, so why not go for broke now and try to, cobble together every dream program we've had for the last 50 years since LBJ started this whole thing, and let's just use our one shot now and let bygones be bygones. That is a dangerous way for your leadership to be thinking, and so that's the concern right now.
Interesting. That losing the majority would be a given this far out. That's
well,
curious.
I guess the poll numbers right now are saying, look, as you know as well as I do in politics, things change in a heartbeat. But I think there are too many folks out there watching some of not just the excess number of spending, but how these things are being drafted in private without much transparency. No one knows where that money's going.
Right.
Even the infrastructure bill, which again we think would be good if it passed on its own. There's still a lot to be determined on how those different agencies and entities are going to distribute that funding. And so we won't know till after the fact to where the end results are. So I think the level of spending, what you're seeing on the border, what you're seeing in foreign policy and how our reputation is starting to go towards weakness. I think there's a lot of concern out there on a number of fronts, and I think the midterms are going to reflect that.
All right, well, that's spending on a national level and how we could just raise the debt ceiling and invent money and just spend money we don't have and worry about it later. That's on a national level. On a statewide level, we've got two constitutional amendments that are going to affect the way we deal with our own monetary policy or fiscal policy here in Louisiana. LABI made no bones about it during the legislative session. These two constitutional amendments were huge, but we're not to the finish line yet. So what are y'all working on right now in order to get us to the finish line?
Yeah, there's a big coalition that is supporting this, and it's growing by the day. You've got, obviously us at LABI. You've got, Committee of 100. You got Cable. You got PAR. You've got a number of chambers across the state. You got the Pelican Institute. There's so many groups that are supporting this effort, and they're all starting to get around and educate folks. I was in North Louisiana last week, spent some time in Shreveport, Bossier, West Monroe, and Monroe, Natchitoches, New Iberia down a little bit later in the week, and the feedback's been fantastic. I'm going down to Lake Charles today, Crowley later this afternoon, be in Lafayette and Alexandria later in the week. And again, everywhere we go and explain these amendments, the feedback is great. The biggest challenge we face is, over the years, voters have been programmed to essentially vote no on constitutional amendments unless they are, overwhelmingly explained to support them. And so we're trying to do our part there to explain these things. But basically, Amendments 1 and 2, they will be on your November 13th ballot. If both of those pass, it will move us up in the tax rankings. It will make it so much easier for small business to avoid some of the red tape they face today and pay their taxes in a much more easier way. Mm-hmm. And on the income tax side, it will lower income tax rates across the board, and it'll set a new ceiling in the Constitution where income tax rates will never be higher than 4.75 again. And right now they're at 6%. And so you're guaranteed lower taxes in the years to come because of that. So it really is a win-win in so many ways. And once we explain it to people, they get it. They grab yard signs and mailers and things like that, and so they want to be part of the cause. So we're going around the state right now trying to educate folks as much as we can.
Stephen Wagasback from LABI is our guest, and yeah, you got an extra month to do it thanks to the hurricane. That's pushed elections back by a month.
That going for us, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What's LABI got coming up?
So this is kind of a cool event month coming up. We're about to hit October, and when October hits, this is where we try to educate our folks and help them be prepared for what's facing them out there. So first week of October, we have our kind of well-regarded workers' comp seminar. If you are a business, you have workers' comp issues, anywhere up and down the chain, we have a tremendous seminar which gives you all the latest and greatest, gives you all the materials you need so you can protect you and your employees in the years to come. That's easy to sign up to at labi.org. Right after that, we have our legal CLE series called the Impact Series. If you're an attorney or if you're a business that has attorneys and they need to get their continuing credits for the year, we have an accredited seminar that gives you all the latest and greatest updates on business, the economy, some of the issues to watch out for in the year to come. It's very educational, very impactful, and folks really like it. You can sign up for that as well. And then also this month, we are taking nominations for our Free Enterprise Awards. That's where we recognize legislators and businesses and nonprofit stakeholders all across the state for doing great things for Louisiana. And we try to highlight some great stories because there's so many people doing heroic work right now to make this state great. And we're going to recognize them on November 11th at our Business and Boots Free Enterprise Party. And we're going to have a block party here. We got Parish County Line, the band come and play. And so if you can't make our workers' comp seminar, you can't make the Impact Series, and even if you forget to nominate someone for Free Enterprise Awards, you can still sign up to come party with us on November 11th and celebrate Louisiana and Louisiana's impactful heroes at a block party here downtown at our offices at 500 Main Street. So that's where we're up to the next month and a half. And I haven't even mentioned that we're going to go to D.C. with our D.C. fly-in somewhere in there and try to talk to our representatives up there and try to educate them on what's going on here in Louisiana and how they can help us back home.
You've had me at block party. I'm in. It's a Thursday night, but I'm still in. He is Stephen Wagasback, president of LABI. I appreciate you, man.
All right, man. Have a great week.
Talk to you next week.
Bye.
Crap. Oh, well, now we got to grab it at 8:50 to be sure, so... Who this is? Yeah, you're not a real person. Why does it keep... Okay. Oh. Anna's reporting traffic. Excuse me. 754 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Thanks again to Stephen Wagasback from LABI for hopping on board. The transportation infrastructure bill is going to be a roller coaster, because tying it in with the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill that was procedurally passed yesterday, marrying those two at the hip, and we talk with Senator Cassidy about this a lot in the early stages as he was working on this, the bipartisan infrastructure and transportation bill, not the reconciliation bill. But he played a pivotal role in actually sitting down with the other side and saying, hey, what can we actually get done that we need to get done? Not the pie in the sky pipe dream things. What can we actually get done that everyone agrees needs to get done? And I asked him at one point, I said, if it comes down to it, and these two bills get tied together, are you going to vote for or against your own bill? Like, all this work you've put in, are you going to have to throw it out at one point and vote no because it's been married to a $3.5 trillion boondoggle? And his response was, if I believe I'm getting this word for word, if that's what happens, it'll fail on a party line vote. Okay. So thanks to Stephen Wagasback for chatting with us a bit about that this morning. Coming up next hour, we're going to talk crime with Chris Nakamoto, actually juvenile crime specifically. And author Ed Moser is going to join us as well. Right now, though, every day we step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish for the Outside In. Starting off in North Louisiana, a child is dead, another was hurt after a woman allegedly threw them from a bridge. KTBS reports the children were recovered from Cross Lake in Shreveport around noon Friday. Police believe 32-year-old Eureka Black tossed them from a lower bridge on South Lakeshore near the I-228 bridge. The youngest child was pronounced dead at the scene. Black's 5-year-old son was alive but was considered life-threatening condition at the time. He was rushed to Oxford LSU Health for treatment. Officials say his condition improved by day's end. Down to New Orleans, the Coast Guard announced Saturday they continue to respond to impacts to the waterways and assess the environmental threats across southeast Louisiana Saturday post-Hurricane Ida. In partnership with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Navy Supervisor of Salvage and Diving, the Coast Guard is continuing efforts to reopen waterways impacted by Ida in the areas of Bayou Lafourche, Holman Navigation Canal, and portions of the Gulf Intracoastal Waterway. Obstructions to the affected waterways are being identified and removed to restore the area to pre-storm conditions. To date, 85 obstructions, comprised primarily of fishing vessels, crew vessels, houseboats, and offshore supply vessels, have been identified in the Bayou Lafourche Channel. And yeah, there's a lot of that. Capsized boats because of the storm, just resting on their side. A Livingston man was arrested Thursday amid what authorities called an ongoing child sex abuse investigation involving multiple law enforcement agencies. Grabbing this one from Leah Skeen over at The Advocate, who reports 75-year-old John Mack was booked into jail in Jefferson Parish after Louisiana state troopers obtained a warrant for his arrest on misdemeanor sexual battery, officials said Friday afternoon. In announcing the arrest, state police cited an investigation involving the sexual abuse of a juvenile victim. They declined to release additional details due to the ongoing investigation and the sensitive nature of the incident. Closing out in Lafayette, police say a man was killed in a shooting Sunday night in the 100 block of Fitzgerald Street in the Truman neighborhood. According to police spokesperson Corporal Bridget Dugas, police responded to shots fired around 8:48 p.m. When they arrived, she said officers located a man suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. He was transported to a local hospital where he died. That is your look at the Outside In, presented by Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. Check them out online at brptlake.com. brptlake.com. Get back to being your best you with Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. CBS News coming your way right now. All right, I got a potty. I'll be back. Whew. Oh, God. I forwarded you an email. Yes. So if you click through on that, you're going to find a tweet from Nancy Pelosi, or audio and a tweet from Nancy Pelosi. I'm going to want that in the last. I want that audio as a soundbite in the last segment.
Oh, it was at the end of the show?
Yeah. Yeah, 13 seconds.
Okay, I'll have that ready for us.
Good deal. Man.
Under the weather?
It's just this, like, it's been a regular thing where, I don't know, my stomach goes sour, I get nauseous.
How much coffee do you drink every morning?
I'm down to just that one cup before the show. I used to drink 2 big cups of coffee in the morning, and now scale that back.
Your body's probably going through a lot of different changes with your diet, with what you consume in the mornings. Hurricane situation.
That was a month ago.
I guess that's true. You have complete collision.
Gotcha.
On top of
Well, I still haven't done Banner's mattress.
Yes.
8:05. Coming up on 8:06. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Hour 3 coming your way right now. Brian here with you. Jake Barty producing. Thank you so much for hopping on board with us today. This hour, we're talking with Chris Nakamoto in our next segment. WBRZ did a special. Not just a report, a full-on special. Amid surge in juvenile violence, WBRZ special addresses the problems and solutions. What are the problems facing Baton Rouge when it comes to juvenile violence? What are the solutions? Can there be one, I don't want to say one-size-fits-all thing here, but how widespread are the opinions on this? Not just in how it's happening, why it's happening, but where do we go to stop it from happening? Chris Nakamoto joins us in our next segment. Also, we're talking about the U.S. Capitol later on, not in the sense of what's going on within the Capitol today, but what has gone on in the Capitol in the past. The history of the U.S. Capitol. Author Ed Moser is going to join us at 8:40. Going to get you to this day in history in just a second. Before we do that, though, want to ask you how you slept last night. If the answer is poorly or I don't remember, let me offer up some advice. Go get yourself a new mattress. Yeah, oftentimes our problems sleeping, they start with a bad mattress. Lumpy, flipped over 100 times, or I should say rotated 100 times, just not what it was. Go visit Mitch Kimball and his team over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet, and you will find amazing results all over the showroom floor. You are encouraged to go try out as many mattresses as possible. Lay down on them. Find the one that's got the right firmness for you. Are you down with the pillow top? Do you like the cooling gel? The hybrid, maybe? Maybe a little firmer is more for you. Maybe it's a little more soft. Maybe you need an adjustable base. No matter how you break it down, they're going to be able to help you out at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. It's just a matter of getting to 4065 Florida Boulevard in Mid-City, 4065 Florida Boulevard in Mid-City, or the corner of Jefferson and Husha 2. If you want to give them a call for directions, start with 930-5779, 930-5779 for the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. All right, Jake, this day in history, let's go. What do you got, Jake?
First off, good morning to all those tuning in with us. My name is Jake Barty. You already know that. We're starting things off in 1864. Jesse James's gang surprise attack train, 150 killed.
Wow.
Yeah. Massacre on that train.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunate for all those in attendance. Moving on, 1910. First test flight of a twin-engined airplane, which was in France, by the way. Getting some modern technology, at least advancements of such. 1912. W.C. Handy publishes Memphis Blues, considered the first blues song out there.
Cool.
1919, some baseball stuff for you. Babe Ruth takes his MLB home run record to 29 with a third-inning blast in a 7-5 defeat at the Washington Senators' Griffith Stadium.
Wait, takes his home run record to what?
29.
29?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
1919 for you. 1923, New York Yankee Lou Gehrig hits first of his 493 home runs.
Cool.
1954, The Tonight Show first premieres on NBC, hosted by Steve Allen.
Yeah.
Don't know who that is, but he was probably legendary enough to warrant the first one.
Might want to look it up beforehand. Yes, he is.
Maybe.
He was a little bit older at the time. I believe, yeah. It was just called Tonight, by the way. Did you know that? Before it was adapted into The Tonight Show, when it premiered, it was just called Tonight.
That seems confusing. Anyways, we're going back to 1982 now, back to the dinosaur period. Filming begins on Never Say Never Again, with Sean Connery playing James Bond for the final time. That'll conclude the historic events from me. You got any for us?
No, I'm way behind. Well, no, yeah. Yeah. Kind of a big deal on this day in
Let's hear it.
1964. On this day in 1964, the Warren Commission report concludes there was no conspiracy in the assassination of John F. Kennedy. On this day in 1964, the Warren Commission got it wrong.
That'll conclude the events for this day in history. We'll go right to the birthdays. First, we have to start off with a New Orleans legend. Lil Wayne turns 39 today.
Darn right.
I'm sorry?
Darn right.
Oh, yeah. Avril Lavigne turns 37. We have Gwyneth Paltrow turning 49. Legendary coach and player Steve Kerr turns 55 today.
Yeah.
Francesco Totti turns 44. He's a big soccer player over in Italy. He's an absolute legend for Roma. That'll conclude the birthdays from my end.
Yeah, okay, that's great. You could Francisco Hot Pockets. Look, he plays soccer, dude. It's Mike Schmidt's birthday. Arguably the greatest third baseman in the history of Major League Baseball, which we play on this side of the Atlantic Ocean. Francisco Hot Pockets. Mike Schmidt's birthday. That's all I got.
Yeah, that's all you got? Okay.
That's all I got.
Let's keep moving then.
Yeah.
Let's get to the deaths. Obviously, we have Hugh Hefner, who died on this day in 2017.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much you could say about that. Cliff Burton died on this day in 1986. That'll conclude the deaths from my end.
Yeah, I don't have any. Go ahead.
Holidays. First, we got National Chocolate Milk Day.
Fantastic.
Love me some chalky milk. World Tourism Day. Can't really do that today, but love being a tourist every now and then. And this is one I think we could all take with us. National No Excuses Day.
I like that a lot.
Me too. Makes me feel like I should be a better version of myself today. But that's going to conclude it for this day in history. Thank you, guys. I'm Jake Barty. I'll see you later.
Yeah, he is Jake Barty. We do this day in history. Mike Schmidt, for crying out loud. Like, if you're looking up third baseman in history, the 80s brought it to us. Mike Schmidt, George Brett. That's it. That's all you need to know. Francisco Remoulade sauce. I don't even know who that is. 812, Talk 107.3 FM. Quick break when we come back. Let's talk about juveniles and crime. A lot brought to the forefront via a WBRZ special. Chris Nakamoto will join us to talk about it. What was his last name? Hot Pockets.
No, that dude's like, I know you don't care for the sport, but he stayed with the entire, he stayed with the same team from like childhood till retirement at like 40.
Okay.
He spans like basically a lifetime, and he's also one of the greatest Italians to ever play. And he could have played for like Real Madrid. You've definitely heard of them. He could have played for them several times, but he chose loyalty over. So he's like a legend for Italy and Rome.
Gotcha.
Also, when I first started watching, that was, I think, his second to last season. And so everyone was giving him his flowers. It was like a really big thing.
Right. Byron says, do you think Nakamoto gets invited to things like bachelor parties? Yeah, I do. I mean, he's already, like, at the phase of life where he's got kids, so I don't know if it's still going, but I think in his day, yeah. Get Nakamoto on the phone, please. Yeah. I'll do my complete collision library here. $814 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Going to be joined by Chris Nakamoto here in just a little bit. First, though, got to ask you about the, or tell you, I should say, about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. So, if the time comes where you find yourself in an accident, a lot of things happen very, very quickly. Those things are, first of all, is everybody in my car okay? Secondly, is everybody in the other car okay? Thirdly, let's assess damage. How bad is it? Next up, or somewhere within those next 2 or 3 steps, has to be deciding where to take your vehicle. The next steps there have to be deciding, okay, who is going to service my vehicle and get it back on the road safely? Might I suggest Complete Collision Center? They've got 2 locations, Plank Road in Zachary or Perkins right near Bluebonnet in Baton Rouge. I throw Complete Collision Center out there because, well, for a couple reasons. Number one, there's going to be a battle with your insurance company, and that battle with your insurance company is a lot easier if you've got somebody on your side. That battle with your insurance company is a lot easier if you've got somebody advocating for you. Complete Collision Center will do that. Because truth be told, your insurance company does have to pay what you say they have to pay, and your insurance company does have to pay no matter where you take your car. You're in control of that decision. They try to steer you one way, but it's not their call. The other reason I recommend Complete Collision Center is their commitment to continuing education, their commitment to certifications, their commitment to knowledge and training, their commitment to knowing that when they're on the job, they're doing things the right way, getting you back on the road safely. Like I said, 2 locations, Plank Road in Zachary or Perkins right near Bluebonnet. But start with CompleteCollision.com. CompleteCollision.com. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. All right. So the headline reads, amid surge in juvenile violence, WBRZ Special addresses the problems and solutions. The story says there's no single or simple answer as to how we got here, as crime among the youngest offenders increases, but nonetheless, we're here. And WBRZ's investigative unit took this on, and, well, Chris Nakamoto, who heads up that investigative unit, joins us now. Chris, welcome back. How are you, man?
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
No, glad to have you on here. I was actually glad to see the headline last night, glad to learn about the special and what it will entail or what it entails. So what have we learned? What did y'all learn throughout this investigation?
So we've been seeing, just in the discussions that we've been having in our newsroom day after day, as more violent crime happens, as police make arrests, we're seeing more and more juveniles that are getting arrested for some of these violent crimes.
Mm-hmm.
So we said, is this just an anomaly, or is this something that just seems kind of isolated? So we started talking about it, and we said, let's start asking some questions. So when we started asking some questions to some of the key stakeholders in our area, they said, no, it absolutely is something that we're seeing. We're seeing an increase among juvenile offenders. And so once we started talking to some of those people, we said, okay, this seems like a much more deeply rooted problem that, just can't be talked about in a minute 30 or 2 minute, television story. So as we started getting a little group together, my investigative photographer, investigative producer, my tune-in co-anchor, Brandy B. Harris, along with my news director, Trace Schmaltz, we all decided, this is something that's worthy of dedicating time and resources to look at the problem and look at solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So our 30-minute special that we did yesterday essentially showed the increase that we're seeing over the past couple of years, and also what people are attributing those factors to. And there is no simple answer, as you said, but the problem ultimately comes down to money, resources, and just the need for more programs for some of these juveniles. Because let's face it, there are a lot of programs already that are out there for juveniles who are labeled as these troubled youth in our community.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you get the programs that are currently available to the people that are causing problems on the street?
Right.
And that is something that no one has been able to figure out just yet. But essentially, when we were talking to a lot of the people that are involved in this day-to-day violence, for example, Judge Adam Haney, a juvenile court judge, he says he sees it time and time again. He also sees a lot of repeat people coming through. But the juvenile system is so different from the adult system in that what you're seeing on the juvenile system is from the time someone's arrested until the time a conviction happens, it's usually within a 3-month window. You look at the adult system, from the time someone's arrested until the time a conviction happens, it could be between 2, 3, 4, or even 5 years. So it definitely is something that we're seeing more of, and I think by shining a light on the situation, hopefully it raises more awareness that there needs to be more resources, time, and everything dedicated to this problem that we're seeing, not just in Baton Rouge, but nationwide.
Let's go back to the part about programs. More programs are needed, and they need to be implemented more effectively. What kind of programs here are we talking about? Because a lot of folks hear the word program, and they're thinking, no, I want punishment. So yeah.
When you talk to the people that are involved with this situation, you ask them at what point is hope lost for a juvenile.
Yes.
And, a lot of people used to say, I think if I could get to that juvenile by the time they're 11, 12, 13, that could possibly, save them and turn them away from a life of violence in the future. But now, from the key stakeholders that we're talking to, it really starts at birth. Like if you know that somebody's in a high-risk situation, they need to be pinpointed as, hey, look, this person is in a situation that doesn't look like it would be conducive to, being a productive member of society. And so essentially we need to pinpoint the people at that age, at a very young age, and say if there are resources available for certain things to help the parent, help the people involved, that could help turn the trajectory of that person's life into something positive. And so the programs that we're talking about, and some of the ones we posted whole links after the special on our website, of if you feel like you need help, all the various, probably 24 programs that we attach links to of nonprofits and everything that are helping these very issues that are facing parents that may have juveniles that are in trouble, or parents who just need help in general, with their kids.
11, 12, or 13. I mean, all the way down to 11. If you're not at an 11, you're already starting to look at being too late, and that is kind of sad across the board. One of the quotes from the article that I took away from was from Judge Haney about talking about how the differences in the timeline on a juvenile trial, and you had mentioned this one a minute ago. Is there any way to affect change in that? Because the shorter timeline affects the prosecution. They can't get a full-on investigation and whatnot, or they can't, get all of their due diligence in. Is there any way to change that to where it's not as rapid of a timeline and we would see fewer cases fall through the cracks?
It would definitely take legislative action to actually change the way our juvenile laws are set up. Essentially, that short time window, when you think about it, like oftentimes lawyers and prosecutors are still trying to get discovery to even prosecute the cases. Think about it. If a juvenile is responsible for, let's say, a murder, and they're asking for phone records, well, when you subpoena the phone records, sometimes it's going to take 2 to 3 months. Well, by that time, the juvenile, by our laws, already has to be going through the process. Within a certain amount of time after an arrest, they have to have a hearing, probable cause hearing, arraignment. Then they have to have a trial within a certain window of time. And so it's leaving the people that are making the decisions with limited information, and they're having to basically dole out justice with limited facts because the window is so short. When we talked to Tony Bankston with the Children's Advocacy Center, she's the executive director over there, she was saying that another problem that they're seeing in this area, and the CAC serves multiple parishes in this area in Baton Rouge, is if they don't get to some of these victims and get them the help that they need when they come in, they're seeing the victims turning into offenders later on down the line. So it's very much a multifaceted problem where the victims at a young age can turn into offenders if they're not getting the mental health help and the resources that they need.
Yeah, it's another one of the quotes from within the story. It had to do with those that were affected by trauma early on are the ones that are committing these crimes as well. So you're looking at something that's generational and cyclical at the same time.
That's exactly right. And they're seeing it, time and time again, where some of these offenders who, they actually were victims at one point.
Right.
And so obviously they see that as, okay, where did things go wrong when we know somebody was a victim at one point and then turned into being an offender later on down the road. Obviously there weren't enough resources or help, or the help that they had given them, possibly didn't work. So, again, there's no simple or single answer, but essentially from what we gathered and just talking to everybody, it's going to take money, it's going to take resources, and it's going to take people that care about this community making a change and either volunteering their time and trying to help with some of these juveniles who are out there on the streets to hopefully try to change the dynamic of what we're seeing.
Chris Nakamoto from WBRZ's investigative unit is our guest. We're talking about juvenile crime, the rash of juvenile crime, and how it's continuing to grow. Chris, y'all talk to judges, y'all talk to law enforcement, you talk to members of the public. Is there a difference in take across those spectrums where a difference in take as to what the root causes are, or a difference in take as to how to fight it?
So when you talk to certain people, some are saying they've seen a spike, in post-COVID, because, more juveniles are at home, they have more time on their hands, things like that. So some are possibly blaming it on COVID. Others are blaming it on just other factors and just, parents who may not have the resources, who are having to work, who can't necessarily look after their kids, like, parents who are dedicated to their families. So, I mean, it's a very multifaceted problem. But the police, you talk to the police, they say they see it time and time again, where these repeat offenders, they know the people because they've arrested them again and they go through the system and they're back out on the street. And another thing that's very complex about this issue is for a juvenile, their records are not public. So unless they're tried as an adult, you're not going to get any information on that juvenile or their past background unless they are charged with a violent crime, and then it becomes a public record for you to actually attend their hearing and see what they are accused of doing. So.
Well, that's another one that's just a sticky situation simply because if you're seeing more and more juveniles commit more and more big boy crimes, this isn't like shoplifting a pack of gum. We're talking about real adult crimes that have real adult consequences, but a lot of times they're still tried as juveniles, and therefore we don't get to know about it, but the police that are on the beat know about it, and they're arresting the same people over and over and over again. And you know what? I don't want to. This walks up to the next question. I don't want to sound like I'm cynical about it. So in everyone you've talked to, what's the futility factor here? What's the level of positive thinking about how the tide can be turned? Is there a level of positive thinking that we can get moving in the right direction?
You got to have hope, And so everybody that we talk to, they're all hopeful. And, they see a future where things are going to get better. But it's going to take time, dedication, resources, and just people targeting their efforts to this problem. It's not going to happen with what we're doing right now. It needs out-of-the-box thinking. It needs, action from our lawmakers, and it needs attention because, you're not affected until it affects you.
Right.
And, from what we're seeing just across our area right now, crime affects everybody. And, you may not know the person, but tomorrow it could be your family. And so it really is a problem that everybody needs to have their eye on and a focus on to try to make it better.
He is WBRZ's Chris Nakamoto. Dynamite work as always, sir. Where can folks find this?
So we have attached links to our website on WBRZ.com.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you stream, we have attached the whole special on our streaming app. So you can go on, download it. There's a special section. And if you feel like you just need the resources that we've posted, the links, you can go find that web story. I'm also going to attach it. I think I've already posted on my Facebook page, my Chris Nakamoto WBRZ Facebook page, where people can easily just go click on it and get right to it to see the resources that we posted for people who may need help.
Yeah, I watched it. I watched it on the website at brz.com, but you will find it in multiple locations as well. WBRZ's Chris Nakamoto, we always appreciate the time, man.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for hopping on with us. And it's one that's it's not going to go away. We've heard it from multiple outlets in the past. Chief Paul has said on this show, they're tired of arresting the same people over and over again. It complicates it even further when those are juveniles. So, all right, we're going to have CBS News coming your way in just a little bit. We've got author Ed Moser coming up to talk about the U.S. Capitol after that. He's written a book about the Capitol. And in fact, that book is titled The Lost History of the Capitol, The Hidden and Tumultuous Saga of Congress and the Capitol. It includes the insurgents on January 6th as well. So you're going to hear a number of stories about our U.S. Capitol and what's going down on site, as it were. But that's not until our next segment. Right now, we got to check news. We're going to start with CBS before moving it back locally. We will check traffic and weather as well, right here on Talk 107.3 FM. This was really good, by the way.
No. It's hard to hear just because of the...
Who was on the phone?
Oh, it was Katie.
All right. What did he need?
He was asking me about, I clocked in Tuesday afternoon.
All right. All right.
Should I have done something different?
Nope, he should. That's until you're running this show flawlessly. Anything that can wait till after the show should wait till after the show. had another stack of papers about this book. What? What do you mean?
Well, just like listening to this and some of the stuff that you reported on today.
Once, as we're getting towards the end of the spots and into the weather. Let me go bring my coffee cup back.
Hi, Talk 107.3, Moser, Brian Haldane. Is this Ed Moser? Wonderful. We're going to be live in just about a minute or two, maybe a few. Thank you. Please hold.
Sweet. 837, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Going to be joined by author Ed Moser in just a minute here. His book is called The Lost History of the Capitol, the hidden and tumultuous saga of Congress and the Capitol building. Capitol building's played host to a number of crazy stories, and I love the fact that they're captured in Ed's book here. We'll get to him in just a minute. I do have to tell you about the folks over at Go Slim Nutrition. GEAUXSlimBR.com is the website. GEAUXSlimBR.com is the website. Went by for the weigh-in last week. Down another pound. I'm getting closer and closer and closer to that goal weight. Slow and steady wins the race on this one, and I got to tell you, it's not about the weight loss itself as much as it is about adapting or adopting a lot of healthier lifestyle choices on a regular basis. You can diet all day long. That's fine. But it's about sustainability with that diet. It's about keeping the weight off long term, and that's their goal over there. That's why they don't just give you diet food and send you on your way. That's why they bring you in for a weigh-in every single week, and you sit down and you talk about your week. You talk about what you've done right and what you've done wrong. You talk about how you could do better next week. You talk about what's on the calendar for the next week so you can make the program work within your lifestyle. They're on Bluebonnet at Perkins, right next door to Rouse's. Go Slim Nutrition. Get on your way to being a healthier you for the rest of 2021 with Go Slim. All right, so the book is called The Lost History of the Capitol, the hidden and tumultuous saga of Congress and the Capitol building. Edward Moser is the author. He is our guest right now. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Brian.
No, glad to have you on here. So it's not often that I'll interview the author before reading the book, but sometimes I see the title and I get super excited, and that's what happened here. So full disclosure, I've not yet read it, but I'm super intrigued because this is a building that, I mean, anybody who's been in it can just look at how august everything is within there and know that everything that has shaped our nation has walked through that building at some point in time.
Indeed, and I'm a historian and tour guide of the Capitol building and other historic places in Washington, D.C., and I was astonished at how much tumultuous, violent, weird stuff has happened around the Capitol building from the very start, from the time it was started to be constructed in 1790, all the way up until, of course, the last couple of years with turmoil in downtown D.C. and the Capitol building itself. And the turmoil really started from the start with Pierre Lafont, the designer of Washington, D.C. When he was putting a road along the south end of the Capitol building, he found a private mansion that blocked his route, and he had the mansion disassembled, destroyed, without asking the owner. The owner turned out to be a member of the Carroll family of Maryland, as in Charles Carroll of Carrollton. And George Washington, the new president, was not happy at all. Wrote an angry letter to Lafont, telling to the desist. Lafont basically disobeyed orders, and Washington had Jefferson, his Secretary of State, fire Pierre Lafont, the designer of the area around the Capitol building itself. So from the start, things have been pretty wild.
I mean, yes, to go from that to all the way up to, I guess, the most recent story would be the storming of the Capitol, the insurrection on January 6th of this year. Kind of crazy to see it encapsulated like that we're, as a nation, we could be 250, or close to 250 years older, and yet still a lot of the same things are going on.
For the very first meeting of the House of Representatives in 1800, the Capitol wasn't finished yet. The Senate was finished, but not the House. And so the House actually met with the Senate and with the Library of Congress and with the Supreme Court. They didn't have their own buildings yet. So it was a kind of a crowded place when the House members first met, and they had a huge crisis on their hands, namely maybe the wildest election in American history. Maybe not 2020, but 1800, when President John Adams faced off against his vice president, Thomas Jefferson. And the Electoral College wound up in a deadlock because a delegate for Jefferson voted for the wrong person. So the House had to decide in its very first meeting who the president was. And they went through over 30 votes and were deadlocked. And it took a lot of political discussions and compromise and the threat of civil war and of Jefferson's people marching on the Capitol to install him as president. until finally a deal was worked out with Hamilton and others supporting their arch enemy, Jefferson, and he finally became president. And a successful president indeed. The Louisiana Purchase and Lewis and Clark and all that. So again, from the start until the very present days, it's been tumultuous.
Absolutely. How much of the book is official business that happened within the Capitol, and how much of it is more along those storylines of things that kind of went on outside of session, outside of the chambers and whatnot? How much is business and how much is dirt?
It goes back and forth. Some of the scandals happened within the Capitol building itself. One of the worst financial scandals happened during and after the Civil War, having to do with the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad, which was a great success. The Golden Spike in Utah, all the way from California to the Midwest, a railroad binding the country. But behind the scenes, congressmen were handing out bribes like candy to the congressmen who supervised the federal funding of the railroad. It was a tremendous scandal. Over a dozen congressmen were involved in taking bribes, but the congressmen involved were the party in power. And so the hearings that were held were really a sham, and no one was punished or served a long prison sentence for one of the great financial scandals.
Over the years, what do you think are some of the biggest differences in the way scandals go down? I mean, obviously technology would be the biggest difference, but just from a personal level or a person-to-person level, what have we seen in the evolution of what goes on behind closed doors in that building?
One big change from the start has been security at the Capitol. Nowadays, it's very hard to get into the Capitol, except earlier this year when apparently some Capitol policemen were welcoming protesters and rioters into the building. If you go back to 1835, say, there was no security at all. Just about anyone could walk in, and the president himself, who was Andrew Jackson at the time, had no Secret Service, no protection. And that led to the first assassination attempt on a president on the Capitol steps. As Jackson was leaving a funeral in the building, a crazy man approached him with two revolvers, fired both of them. Both of them misfired. And Old Hickory, although elderly and infirm, wouldn't take it. He raised his hickory cane and he nearly beat the would-be assassin to death until a congressman intervened, pulled the assassin off him, a congressman named Davy Crockett, of all people. So the security has changed quite a bit.
I mean, the mere thought that to be that up close and personal. We think of things in terms of like the Secret Service detail and being vetted, if being vetted to even getting anywhere close like that today. That just the idea of a president whipping somebody's behind just does not really compute in 2021. You do tackle what went down on January 6th a little bit. How much of I assume that's all from a historical perspective. It's all from a chronological accounting of what went on. I mean, there's so much going on right now with the theories behind the who's and what's to blame and all that. Where does your recounting of that situation fall in on this?
Well, I had the book. I had the book finished by January of this year, and then the publisher said to me, "We have to have a chapter."
You kind of do, yeah.
And so what I did was I went back a little bit a year, and I talked about both the disorders at the Capitol building and a year before the disorders at Lafayette Square and in Georgetown and throughout D.C. And my perspective was that of a historian. I really dislike damaging of historic buildings and places. So I condemn the people who damaged the buildings in Lafayette Square and the historic sites in Georgetown during the George Floyd riots and disorders and protests of 2020. And then I condemn the people who entered the Capitol building and damaged some of the officers and took some of the things from offices there. So I tried to take a balanced approach. But it's tough to write as events are breaking and you're learning new things about the events of this year as we speak.
Yeah, and the security in the wake of that, a lot of that headed up by Louisiana's own General Russell Honore, kind of taking the helm to make sure everything is simultaneously secure and still the people's building. It's a weird spot to be in because safety has got to be paramount. But at the same time, though, that house belongs to us. That house belongs to all of us.
And I found in my research that there's been a number of breaches of the Capitol. This year, of course, one amazing one at a time when security was quite lax happened in 1954 when 4 people, led by a woman named Lolita, waltzed into the House of Representatives. Security at that time did not check for weapons. The 4 people went up into the visitors gallery. They said the Lord's Prayer. They unfurled the flag of what they thought was their country. They pulled out revolvers and began firing into a working session of the House. They wounded 4 congressmen, one of them seriously. It was the worst, most violent episode involving injured congressmen in congressional history. The 4 people turned out to be Puerto Rican nationalists. They thought by shooting up the House, they would get independence for Puerto Rico. It wasn't very smart. It didn't work out.
No, it did not work out. How'd that play out for you? The book is called The Lost History of the Capitol, The Hidden and Tumultuous Saga of Congress in the Capitol Building. Edward Moser is the author. He's with us right now. We got about a little bit less than a minute left. This is not your first foray into diving into the history of the buildings in Washington, D.C. You've got one about the White House as well, correct?
Yes, last year I published with McFarland Publishing, The White House's Unruly Neighborhood. Roman and Littlefield is doing the Capitol book. Mm-hmm. And a year ago was The White House's Unruly Neighborhood, Crime, Scandal, and Intrigue in the History of Lafayette Square. Very similar. I found that there were dozens of violent and tumultuous episodes that occurred in and around the White House since its construction in the 1790s.
Both books are available on Amazon. I can't wait to read this one. I'm looking forward to it greatly. Ed Moser, thank you so much for the time this morning.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Appreciate having you on. The Lost History of the Capitol, the hidden and tumultuous saga of Congress in the Capitol Building. I mean, we're looking at one little snapshot of history. There's been plenty that's gone on. Not all of it's made the books that we read in school, so that's why I look forward to stuff like that. 8:50, let's hit your money now. Cool. Yep. That was fun. I like good storytellers.
Can't find much better storytellers than authors.
Mm-hmm. It's weird though. Sometimes it just will not translate to speaking out loud. A lot of guys can write it down and do nothing with it in real life.
Some people just be built different.
If you would please steal a pic online from Amazon or something of the cover of that book to use for.
Also for the article or the post.
I
have the title of the book, like the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also a link. And you click it, and then you go to the Amazon page to buy the book.
Perfect.
It comes out on October 1st, which I also chose.
Wait, it's not out yet?
Yeah, it comes out October 1st.
Shit. Okay. Well, I would have pushed this back to Friday then, and I know. Damn it. The email never said that.
Yeah, when you said that you haven't got a chance to read it yet, it was like a lot of people do it the same way.
Yeah. Oh, well.
I mean, nothing wrong with press with books.
Yep.
I have them all the time. So you don't want me to post it?
Yeah, I want you to post it. With the link and everything. We just won't talk about it anymore today. Yo. Who's boss? Your boss. Crispy. Yep. Yeah, I come off a weekend like this weekend, and I can't look for. So I have a DJ business on the side, like parties and weddings and stuff, and during football. Do I? Oh, I didn't do any this weekend. I'm looking at one for the bye week. I've already got one on Saturday of the bye week. Now I'm looking at one for the Friday of the bye week, and I'm like, every fall wedding is that weekend. I know. Which, yeah, it does. So you time to celebrate your anniversary. It's like it makes sense on your wedding weekend. Like I got married September 22nd, 2001, bye week. Next week LSU was at Tennessee, so we didn't even lose a home game. We had away game while we're on a honeymoon, bye week for the wedding, right? And to be fair, 20 years ago, college football was not nearly as insane as it is right now. It was not nearly. It was getting there, but it wasn't where we're. There was no SEC network.
I remember in the early 90s coming here on weekends and staying at buddies' older brothers' apartments at LSU.
Yeah.
And it being bigger than I've ever seen it. Until then. Yeah, since. Definitely. It was a big deal then. It's way more now, for sure.
Yeah.
How's Saturday go? How's it going? Yeah, it's going good. Yeah.
Way smoother this time. Getting it all started up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was fun. Good. It's a good time. Good experience. I get to hang out with those two a little bit.
You picking their brains and taking notes? Because, I mean, they both do.
I'm annoying them, frankly.
Good. Matt did it.
Let's take her home.
Yep. 856 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. One more segment to go here. And, well, I'm hard-pressed to talk about anything other than this transportation and infrastructure bill that's in front of Congress today. I mean, you've got a lot of alignment in favor of this bill. We had Dr. Sean Wilson on last week, head of Department of Transportation. In fact, I believe you heard sound bites during our newscast this morning. He's all in, obviously, with that much backlog, $14 billion worth of backlog in Louisiana for transportation projects. Yeah, I guess the head of transportation would be in favor of something that would bring him a ton more money. Senator Bill Cassidy was pivotal in writing the bipartisan legislation. That's also good. He's all in. Passage of the historic Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act on Monday would be a great victory for the American people. It will modernize and upgrade our roads, bridges, ports, and broadband, increase the resiliency of our electric grid and coastal areas, and create jobs and long-term economic growth without raising taxes on everyday Americans or increasing inflation. That's Senator Cassidy's statement. Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome, she's all in. The U.S. House of Representatives is set to vote Monday on the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act of 2021. Washington has long talked about the need for major investment in America's infrastructure system. We are now on the cusp of what will be the largest increase in infrastructure funding since the dawn of the interstate system. In recent years, the residents of Baton Rouge voted to fund the Move EBR program, the largest infrastructure program in Baton Rouge history, and earlier this year, the legislature voted to increase recurring state funding for the first time since the 80s. Both of these actions took leadership and courage. The mayor goes on. It's time for Washington to put partisan politics aside and do its part to ensure America's infrastructure systems not only maintained, but enhanced for future generations. Everybody's on board with the $1.2 trillion. Only problem is there's $3.5 trillion worth of a reconciliation bill that's going to hold the whole thing hostage. We talked with Stephen Wagasback about it earlier. Speaker Nancy Pelosi is doing her level best to make sure that if we're spending 1.2, we're spending another 3.5 trillion. Like beyond Dr. Evil money. But don't look at the amounts, Nancy Pelosi says. Making the rounds on the Sunday talk shows, Nancy Pelosi says, don't trivialize over dollars.
So again, the Senate and the House, those who are not in full agreement with the president's rate, let's see what our value, let's not talk about numbers and dollars. Let's talk about values.
Yeah.
So again,
no, don't talk about the numbers, because we're in a debate about raising the debt ceiling right now by about another $15 trillion. And this is coming off of, what was it, about 8 years ago where we did this before? Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Billion here, a billion there. Before you know it, you're talking about real money. You have to focus on the numbers. Sorry, not sorry, but you have to focus on the numbers. And $3.5 trillion on the back end of a pandemic where we've spent, what, another $7 trillion? We're already raising the debt ceiling to cut a check or cut checks to pay for the shopping sprees we've already been on. You have to look at the dollars before you go on your next shopping spree. Maybe you skip Great American Cookie or the pretzel and just go straight to Forever 21. Fox News Rundown's next. Damn it. I needed 60 more seconds on that take. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. We got